Hello, classmates. How are you today? My name is Elyssa Lassiter, and today we are going to be talking about the motivating effect of cognitive dissonance. So, what is cognitive dissonance? And let's talk about where it came from. So, Leon Festinger is the father of the cognitive dissonance theory. And when two or more people or things around a person are in a state of disharmony, imbalance, or incongruity, that imbalance causes what they call dissonance or discomfort. And sometimes when people really align with who they believe they are, if something comes up and challenges that, then that person is going to try to find a way to reduce or eliminate that imbalance. And this information is coming from our textbook, Parks and Simpson. And they also mentioned an example. For example, I like two people, A and B, but A doesn't like B. So that way an imbalance exists and they may try to act to eliminate that. I think all of us can think of a time where perhaps we had two friends that didn't get along, or maybe there were some, I guess, conflict between two parties, and we might have been associated with both parties. And so we had to find a way to eliminate that dissonance in some way, shape, or form, whether that may be mean severing the relationship with that out of favor person or changing your feelings about them. And sometimes, one thing that I really do like about the cognitive dissonance theory is that it's something that we truly see in everyday life. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, some everyday examples of cognitive dissonance. But when it comes to cognitive dissonance in your organization or in the workplace, it's also important that we're mindful of the level of motivation to reduce said imbalance. With this point about being mindful of the level of motivation to reduce said imbalance, there may be some times where the dissonance might not be great enough for that person to want to take action. However, if the level of motivation to change, if that dissonance is great enough, then they may be motivated to act. So I heard this quote and it really resonated with me. And a little bit about me, I'm a mindset coach for entrepreneurs, and I'm also a coach trainer. And our organization trains coaches through our International Coach Federation approved program. And this is something that I hear a lot in the coaching world. I heard this from Tony Robbins, and he talks a lot about this, how people align with who they believe they are. And I think he said this in reference to, say, for example, if someone believes they're a success, they're going to be moving throughout the world as if they are a success. If the person believes they're a quote unquote failure, or if they believe, oh, I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at reading, or I'm not good at etc., then their mind can kind of pick out and be mindful of some of those things that further validate those beliefs about themselves. So I really thought about that and how it applies to cognitive dissonance, because when someone feels a certain way about themselves, but something comes and challenges that, or if they have a certain preconceived notion or idea about something and something comes up and challenges that, then they're going to be doing what they want to do to make sure that they alleviate said dissonance. So let's take a look at some examples of this. And so here's some examples of cognitive dissonance in action every day. And one of these actually is in our text. And I put click it or ticket because, say, for example, and I'll just take a look, it's on page 134 for those of you who are following along. Um, for example, if the person believes that using a seatbelt can save their life, or excuse me, will not save their life. However, they see the signs, click it or ticket, or arrive alive, or other ways that the state or their county is encouraging them to use that seatbelt. Cognitive dissonance theory predicts that they'll be motivated to reduce or eliminate the dissonance. So perhaps they might stop wearing that seatbelt when they convince themselves, I'm just going down the road. I'm just going a few miles away. No big deal. Or they don't believe that they're going to get caught. So if the penalty is too small to worry about, again, going back to what I mentioned, if the level of dissonance is not great enough, then they may not be motivated to act. However, if they see a policeman on the side of the road, perhaps that would increase that level of dissonance and they may act. Also, advertisements. You may hear some people, or excuse me, some advertisements saying, and I'm just going to make this up, the savvy mom uses blank X product. And so maybe the mom who's at home is like, oh, well, maybe I'm not savvy enough because I'm not using this. And so it will either motivate her to act and perhaps buy the product, or maybe she reduces the dissonance and says, these commercials, they just say all kinds of things. I'm savvy. I'm savvy in this other way. Yeah, I don't have to use this to be that. And she goes on about her day. Another example might be eating certain foods. I remember in undergraduate, I had to do a speech, and it was about why we should have plant based diets. And can't quite say that I'm plant based these days. However, definitely there's a lot to learn from that. However, as I was presenting the information, I started learning about, where some of the meat was coming from, and then talking about animal cruelty and things like that. Actually, as a result of that report, or that speech rather, I actually cut some foods from my diet. I didn't cut all of them, and I realized this was also a part of cognitive dissonance. I said, well, you know what, I feel bad because I don't think I should be eating this, but maybe I could eat this other thing. Or I wanted to eliminate that dissonance that I felt when I was making some of those decisions. So perhaps as an example, someone may say, oh, well, I don't want to eat meat due to animal cruelty. But then maybe they decide that that's not the course of action for them. Maybe they, have different beliefs. So going a little bit further, maybe that person loves animals. They feel this dissonance about eating animals. And perhaps they decide to either eliminate meat from their diet, or maybe they try to make a bit of a different shift to reduce that dissonance and said, well, I still want to continue to eat these things. However, maybe let me add some humanely raised meat, or maybe let me add some other types of substitutes in there. So that's just some examples of cognitive dissonance in everyday. So let's talk a little bit about cognitive dissonance in the workplace. And for those who are following along in the book, we're still on page 134. So, for example, management can require workers to do certain things in the hopes that attitudes or beliefs will follow. And this actually related to the seatbelt example that was a couple paragraphs up. And so perhaps uh, the various things that employers will try to use to create that dissonance will encourage their employees to perhaps come to work on time, to be more mindful of their coworkers, to be more mindful of their workflow, and to make sure that they have the bandwidth to take in the tasks that are being given to them. Another example is equity theories, and now I'm on page 135. Equity theories postulate that workers are motivated to act by their perceptions of inequities in the environment. Perhaps they have a coworker who is working a little bit less than them, but maybe they're getting more pay, or maybe they have somebody who's always coming in late and who's still getting more pay and or recognition. So the theory of cognitive dissonance assumes that a worker performing the same work as another but being paid significantly less will do something to relieve this dissonance. Among the workers' options are asking for a raise, restricting output, or seeking another job. How many of you have heard of individuals who say, well, there wasn't any room for growth there, or I couldn't see myself raising in the ranks or rising in the ranks, so I wanted to change jobs and do something different. So one thing that I see is that this affects not only the employee, but it also affects the employer, because maybe there's unions, or there's people who go on strike, and that creates some cognitive dissonance within the employees, within the employers or the organization to act. Another way that I've really seen cognitive dissonance in my life is in my work as a coach, but also a coach trainer, where I'm training coaches on how to have successful enrollment conversations and how to have successful sales conversations. And so, one thing that we teach is to draw up the pain points and also the desires to help to motivate them to act. And so, if we don't present that, or if we don't help them create that healthy level of cognitive dissonance, then they may just keep going without taking that step closer to their goals or their dreams. Say, for example, if someone says, oh, well, I've been wanting to be a coach for 10 years now, and I've been wanting to do this for so long, but I just haven't found the right steps to be able to do that. And so we really get a chance to talk to them so they can share about those pain points, because sometimes that's the reason why we're on the phone in the first place, or we're on the session in the first place. And in doing so, we dredge up that desire to what they want to achieve. And then, say, for example, we present those steps, that opportunity for them to, whether it be join us or to get started on their coach training journey. They may say, oh, well, I don't know, let me wait until next time, or I'm not sure. We're hit with some of those sales objections. And what we do is that we hold side by side uh, what it is that they shared that they wanted to achieve, those actions, those steps to get to that goal or that dream, and this objection that they've just brought us. So that way, when we hold it side by side, and mind you, this is not done in a way that is ingenuine, or that's not genuine, that's poking fun. We don't do that at all. We do it in a kind, loving, gentle way to show them, okay, this is what you said you wanted. However, this is your action. And that presents some cognitive dissonance. And either, again, going back to the examples that we talked about, either they relieve it in some way. Well, I mean, I know I've been wanting to be a coach for 10 years, but not really. Or it motivates them to act. So, just a bit of a recap. Again, Leon Festinger is the father of the cognitive dissonance theory. The definition of it: when two or more people or things around a person are in a state of disharmony, imbalance, or incongruity, that imbalance causes dissonance or discomfort, and people are going to want to relieve it. It doesn't feel good to feel that discomfort. And then also, cognitive dissonance, it appears in everyday lives as well as in the workplace. And this theory affects both the employer and the employee as it pertains to the workplace as well. So, just some focused questions for us to talk about, and I would love to hear your responses. I'm looking forward to it, especially I know many of us are in different areas, we're different arenas in our organization. So, I know it may look a little bit different in each one. So, I'm excited to see that. But what are some ways that you've experienced cognitive dissonance, and how did you alleviate it, or how did you act upon it? And what are some ways that you've helped to motivate others through fueling some healthy cognitive dissonance? So, again, what are some ways that you've personally experienced cognitive dissonance in the workplace or in life, period? And tell me about how you alleviated it, or how you were motivated to act. Or, and what are some ways that you've helped to motivate others through fueling that cognitive dissonance? Thank you so much for listening. I'm grateful to be part of the class. God bless you all. And I'm looking forward to seeing your responses. Take care.